All right, welcome back to another episode of Cracking the Code with Robert G. Allen. Robert, we have had so much fun doing this podcast with you. We've been learning so much. You've been dropping so much knowledge on people, and it's just amazing that you're willing to give this information to folks all around the world who are looking to invest in real estate. As I've been talking to you, I've come to understand that there are certain principles in all that you do, right? You have principles for mindset, principles for real estate. And I would love to just kind of dive a little bit deeper today in what those principles look like. You actually told me you have 7 different principles that we want to talk about today of finding great deals. And so what I'd really love to start with is this. And you told me principle number 1 is if finding gold was easy, everybody would be rich.
Yeah, if finding gold was easy, if it was laying on the streets everywhere, everyone would pick it up and they would be rich. And therefore, the get rich quick mentality is dangerous.
But it's so rampant.
It is rampant. And a lot of times when people read some of my books, like The 1 Minute Millionaire, that sounds like get rich quick, doesn't it? Nothing down, and get rich if you have no money.
Yeah.
But underlying those concepts are principles. And the first principle, it's going to take time and effort to work at this. And most people are not willing to go an extra mile outside their comfort zone. They are inside their comfort zone. I'm going to tell them to do things that are uncomfortable to them, that they've never done before. And when you do something you've never done before, it's scary because you don't want to look like a fool. Well, unfortunately, if you want to get good at anything, at first you're going to look like a fool. And you're going to talk to a real estate agent and you're going to look like a fool. That's just the way it is. In fact, they'll tell you you're a fool if you want to buy a property with nothing down. So the point is, you're going to eventually skill your way into being good at doing this. So just get rid of the get rich quick mentality right now. Just throw it away right now. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. But every good thing, comes on the other side of our comfort zones. When you get outside your comfort zone, it's opportunity zone. It's scary. It's riskier. But it's where all the money's at. So you got to go get it.
You got to push just a little bit farther, right? You got to walk past the gold on the street to get to the mine.
Sometimes there's a big wall that's the comfort zone. So you have to kind of dig under that wall. And it's hard to dig under it. So that's what I'm calling about the hard work.
Yes.
When you dig under it, eventually you get on the other side of the wall. It's like, whoa. I've heard so many rich people, so many have told me, money is everywhere. How come you can't see it? It's just like opportunity everywhere you look. And I'm going to say that same thing to you now because I'm on the other side of my comfort zone. I've dug underneath the wall.
Yeah. And
now I see it everywhere. So that's the first principle.
Okay. So I have principle number 2. It's kind of a dichotomy here, right? Talk to us about the principle number 2 is curiosity versus mastery. Talk to us about the
Whenever
difference.
you find something that you're kind of interested in, you say, "Oh, I'm gonna try that." And so it's back to the try. If you are curious about something, you heard that people are making money on real estate.
Yeah.
Oh, I read the newspaper, prices are going up. I don't want to be left behind. I got to get in. And so they dabble. They are curious about it. They stick their toe in it. There is no sticking your toe in this.
They don't go all in.
You are all in or not. If you're just sticking your toe, more than likely you will lose money, period.
Yeah.
And so I would say don't stick your toe. Just stay away from it completely. Leave your money in the bank, frankly. It'd be safer there. Because if you're just playing this game as you're curious about it, no, you're going to go to mastery. Now, mastery means you have to start as a fool. You have to start learning from all the experts out there. I'm trying to teach you right here. I'm a master.
We have a master right in front of us.
Exactly. I'm a master. And so people ask, why am I willing to do this? Because I feel it's my purpose in life to teach this. This is why I breathe.
Yeah.
People say, well, yeah, you're making all kinds of money and, you're going to charge these high fine. I'm giving 99% of what I know. I give away.
Yeah, this is free.
This is free.
Yeah.
This is free. I do it because I love to teach and I love to see people's lives changed. So the mastery part is taking that step in but committing to going all the way in. And mastery means they're willing to spend the 10,000 hours, you know? So how many hours have you invested in this?
Right.
I'll bet you might have read a book on it or watched a podcast or maybe a webinar. You might be into it 5 hours.
Yeah.
So are you going to stumble across a really good deal? Would you even know a good deal if you saw it?
Right.
More than likely, you wouldn't even, it'll just pass you right by because you didn't know how to evaluate that good deal. And in another podcast, we're going to go deep. How do you evaluate whether it's a deal good or not? The principle is I have to be willing to invest 10,000 hours, or I have to align myself with someone who has invested 10,000 hours.
Okay, so you can borrow somebody else's
Totally,
hours.
you can borrow it. I didn't, well, that's not true. My first deal was because I borrowed somebody who had 10,000 hours. He was a multi-millionaire, and I went to Paul and I said, what should I do? And he gave me some specific instructions. So in a sense, I'm doing that here for you.
Yeah.
Mastery, like, was it Bruce Lee said, I'm going to mess up the quote, but something like, I'm not afraid of the guy who's practiced one type of kick or 5,000 kicks one time.
Yeah.
Like 5,000 different opportunities one time. I'm afraid of the guy who has practiced one kick 10,000 times, not 10,000 kicks one time. And so most of you right now, you're at one kick on one thing. And you probably, if you're an entrepreneur, I'll bet you've tried this business or that business or this network marketing opportunity, or you probably tried 7 or 8 or 10 things right now, and you kicked once and you didn't go deep, and therefore it didn't work. The reason it didn't work is you didn't make it work.
Yeah.
You
gave up.
You gave up.
Yep.
You gave up before you hit the vein of gold. And real estate, you know that real estate is the greatest source of wealth in the world, period.
Yes, 100%.
More millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires have been created from real estate than anything else combined, bar none. So why is that? We'll talk about that in another podcast, why real estate's so good. But the point is, you need to invest the time. So maybe it'll take you a year. Going to seminars and coaching with people and talking with people and practicing and failing, and maybe it'll take you 2 years. I don't know. It took me a good year before I really got my feet underneath me.
But here's what I've learned about deals, right? When you're working through curiosity versus mastery, I used to get so nervous. I'd see a deal and I'm like, it's going to go away. And then guess what? Another deal came, and another. Like, those deals keep coming. So
do.
would you say it's fair not to get too excited about a deal that you're going to miss out on one thing, because another one's going to come? Like, don't be so focused on that one deal that you lose that mastery part of it.
Where does that come from? Where does what you just said come from? The fact that you're going to lose the deal.
For me, it's fear.
It comes from a scarcity mindset.
Absolutely.
It means deals are scarce. I need to grab onto this one. I might even need to be unethical or illegal. I might jump ahead of everybody else in the line to try to capture that deal. And you want universe on your side. You don't do that kind of stuff.
Yep, we've talked about the win-win situations. Right?
Totally.
That goes exactly against win-win situations.
Scarcity mindset.
Scarcity mindset.
My scarcity mindset, when I did my challenge with San Francisco, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill.
Yeah.
In 72 hours, I'll find something. I know in the city there's 100,000 properties. How many do I need?
Yeah.
I need one.
Just one. Yeah.
So when you look at your city, you ask yourself that question: how many properties are there? And then how many of those are trying to sell right now? About 10 to 20%. And then of that 10 to 20%, how many of them are highly motivated? Maybe 1%. Well, 1% of 10,000 is 100.
Yeah.
That means there are 100 deals right now in your city where somebody just learned, like today, that they need to sell the real estate immediately.
Right.
And they're maybe on their knees praying about it. God, please help me get rid of this property. And you call.
Yeah.
You show up at their front door and they go, how did you know? Right? No, you might think that's really silly, but if you're out there falling into good deals, you're going to fall into one every once in a while, just exactly like that.
Yeah.
So you have to have you don't have a scarcity mindset. You have an abundant mindset.
Yep.
I can find a deal.
Yeah. And by the way, for those listening that don't know, Robert not only found one property in San Francisco, but 3 in 72 hours, correct?
No, I bought 7.
7. I was way off. 7.
7.
So went from 1 to 7 in like 72 hours.
56 hours is what it was.
That's crazy.
So I was looking for highly motivated sellers, and I was using some unorthodox ways of finding highly motivated sellers. We were just in a previous podcast, we were talking about what are some of the creative ways of doing it. One way I did there was I found that there was a list of real estate agents who were creative real estate agents. They belonged to a company called Creative Real Estate. I don't even know if it exists any longer, to tell you the truth, but they were subscribers to a magazine called Creative Real Estate.
Oh, I see.
So I found where those brokers were meeting who were trained to think more creatively, and I called them on the phone and said, "Do you have any don't wanters?"
Yeah.
And they said, "As a matter of fact, we do."
That's awesome.
Here's one. There's a whole nothing down deal for you.
I love that story.
That's a sidetrack.
That's amazing. All right. So let's talk about principle number 3. And this one is, I think, really hard for people to do. And I've tried to do it myself. Principle 3 is pretending you are rich.
We're just doing a challenge with some teenagers. It's called the Teenage Millionaire Challenge.
Okay.
These kids don't have any money.
Yeah.
They don't have any credit. They don't have any cash flow. They don't have any credit. I asked them, how many of you are millionaires? And nobody raised their hand. There were 19 of them. And throughout this next year, I'll probably be referring to this through our podcast. So how are the millionaire teenagers doing? Have they found any properties? Have they done any deals? But I said, and all of them kept their hand down. Nobody raised their hand to that question. I said, well, how many of you have 2 lungs? I happen to know a very rich guy in China who needs an extra lung. If you'll sell your lung, he'll pay you $1 million in cash. Anybody want to sell a lung? Nobody wants to sell a lung. I said, well, you're a millionaire. How many have 2 eyes? I know a really rich guy in Russia. He needs another eye. Would you let him have your eye? It's only $1 million. And nobody raises their hands at it. How many of you have 2 kidneys? I know a really rich guy in Argentina who needs a kidney because he's on dialysis right now. Would you be willing to? No, what I'm trying to say is they're all multimillionaires. They just will not access that money. They won't sell their assets. So I started right at the very beginning by saying to the teenager, you're already a millionaire. Now, I need you to pretend that you not only are a body millionaire, your assets are worth millions, but that you have access to $50 million in cash. Would you look at the market differently?
Yeah.
And they go, well, yeah, if I had access to $50 million in cash, then I'd be writing offers on lots of properties. And I would probably be writing lowball offers on lots of properties because I would realize that if I wrote 10 offers, maybe one of them would come to fruition and there'd be where am I going to get the $50 million they're asking me? I say, that's irrelevant. Just stick with me for a minute. Suppose you did have access to it. I said, what's your credit rating? How many of you have a perfect credit rating in the room? 0. Nobody had a perfect. I said, you have an 850 credit rating right now. Yeah. That means you could qualify with credit-wise for any loan in the world because of your credit. And they go, but I don't have that kind of credit. And I say, but what if you had access to that kind of credit? They said, well, then I wouldn't be afraid to look for real estate. I would say my credit is fantastic, or I have access to that. I said, how many of you have $100,000 a month in revenue coming to you, net to you? Nobody raised their hands. I said, what if you had access to somebody who had 850 credit, $50 million in cash, and $100,000 a month in revenue, and by the way, $50 million in assets, in net worth in their net. In other words, all the assets that the banker wants, if you don't have them, somebody does. So this principle I'm trying to teach you is I need you to look at the world through rich eyes. And most people don't. They want to be authentic. They want to tell the truth. That I don't have, my credit sucks. My bank, I just got fired from my job. I mean, there's no way I could qualify for it. But remember, when you partner with somebody who has all the resources you don't have, you get access to all those resources, and they are as if they are yours. They belong to you. So the real question is, how do I find the resources? Not how do I find the real estate? And finding the resources today is a whole lot easier than finding the real estate, but frankly.
Interesting.
How do I find people who have those kinds of resources? So just in a short time, I'm trying to get you to
Kind of reprogram
reprogram the way you think about the way you look at the world. Just try it today. Try it. When you go to work, you're driving down the street, the freeway, whatever. You're looking at all this real estate that's skipping on by you. You go, would I want that if I had $50 million in net worth, $10 million in cash, a perfect credit rating, and $100,000 a month? Would I want that? Is that the kind of investment I want to invest my money in? And you'd probably say no. It'd have to be a bargain because rich people don't buy retail.
Right.
They buy wholesale.
That's right.
That's why they're rich. So you'd start thinking wholesale. Right now, you're thinking retail because you think, well, the banker is going to want to have all this stuff I don't have.
Right.
So this is reprogramming. Just try it. Look at the world. What would I buy that skyscraper? Well, I wonder what the cash flow from that skyscraper is.
Yeah.
What are the numbers that flow from that skyscraper, from flow that apartment building, from flow from that that commercial building I'm passing by? See what I'm saying?
Yep.
It forces you to ask totally different questions because that question comes from a different part of your brain. It didn't come from the poor part of your brain, from the scarcity part of your brain. It came from the abundant part of your brain, and therefore you start to see opportunities you've never seen before.
Yeah.
That's the principle. How you live the principle, we'll talk about it. We'll go deep on that in another section.
I feel like that's a really deep.
It's a deep one.
That's a deep way to understand.
It's a deep one.
So first of all, recognizing there is abundance, right? If you're going to pretend you're rich, there's abundance. There's enough for everybody, right? I love that. So so the next one, your next principle, which is principle 4 now we're on, is in dill digging, right? You have to first go wide and then go deep. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. We're digging for deals. We're going to use all kinds of metaphors. So looking for gold, a stream of whatever metaphor works for you. We're digging. So we know, obviously, that we're not going to find the gold laying on the ground. We're going to have to dig for it. And there's going to be a lot of gravel that we're going to go through, to crush through in order to find that little shiny piece of gold nugget. But it's worth it. Yeah. It's worth a ton of gravel to get to 1 ounce of gold. It's worth it. The principle here is if I don't keep digging, if I don't go deeper, then I'm never going to get to that gold nugget. So first, I want you to be shallow. Think, what are the many ways, Robert? How many? And I'm going to have you stick your toe in the water in all 9 or 10 of them. Or whatever book you're reading, frankly. Yeah. Whatever that expert tells you of this is how I find deals, go try them all. Why? Because I want you to have the experience of what it's like to actually do it, okay? And most people don't. They read it and then they don't do it. So I want you to literally stick your toe in the water, and you're going to discover in one of those little experiments, is trying it, testing, you're going to discover something that you really resonate with, that you like, that kind of fits who you are. That's where you go deep. You say, I love going to the county courthouse. Man, this is like a gold mine here. All these resources of all the people with problems. It is a litany of thousands of people with serious problems who own real estate they're trying to get rid of. And so you go, I love it. I love to spend time in this place. But some of you hate it. You just don't like to do that kind of digging. It just doesn't fit who you are. Some of you like to say, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want them to talk to me. I don't want to reach out, going outbound marketing. I want it inbound marketing. That means when they send me a lead, it goes to my little processing machine. Now, I'm going to ask them some questions to fill out a questionnaire. And if they really are serious at the end of that, then I'll give them my telephone number and we'll talk. I don't want to talk to anybody that's a looky-loo. I'm done. So what I'm trying to say is you're going to discover the way that works for you, but you've got to try them all.
Yeah.
And then you go deep. That was that principle.
Okay, perfect. So principle number 5 is interesting. Principle 5 is farming, not hunting. So talk to us about that. What's the difference?
Well, a lot of the metaphors we use is like, I'm going to find a deal. I'm going to get a lead. I'm going to process the lead. I'm going to, kill that lead. Yeah. Most marketing uses very negative imagery. And so when we talk about finding a highly motivated seller, and now actually taking advantage of that person's problems because they're telling me, they're highly motivated to sell. I'm down, kick me, is an ad that I actually read in a newspaper. While I was on a radio show, we were looking at the newspaper, and it was the ad I read literally right in front, right on radio. I'm down, kick me. Most people think that highly motivated sellers are desperate, meaning I now take advantage of them.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. I want to have still win-win. However, this principle goes deeper. Read that principle again.
Farming, not hunting.
So if I'm a farmer, I'm going to cultivate a crop. If I'm a hunter, I'm going to kill my game. I'm going to kill. The game is to kill game. That's what it means. That means there's no more relationship after that. There's nothing but death.
Right.
Farming means I'm going to cultivate lots of relationships with lots of people who at this point are not ready to sell. Mm-hmm. So by cultivating and networking with and persistently dropping the hint in their lap, I think I'd be interested in buying a property. One of my most successful students told me the story just yesterday of about a person he worked with for like 2 years.
Okay.
It was next to a property he was rehabbing, and there was a nice, commercial space. And he tracked down the owner and said, "Are you willing to sell?" And the guy hung up on the phone. Said, "I'm out of here," And he literally planted that seed for 2 years, till eventually the guy says, "Okay, give me cash."
Wow.
Give me cash, and this was the price, and the price was good, because he cultivated it.
Yeah.
It's a crop. So most people, they take a sales mentality, which is, if you're not interested in selling, next. You're going to reject me? Next. Wrong mindset for a real estate investor. You want to be, how can I serve you? How can I help you? Maybe I can't buy it, but what can I do to help you? I understand you have a problem. Tell me about it. I'm your friend. I want to get me on the same side of the table as the seller. Right now, we're across the table from each other. We are adversaries.
Yeah.
I need to get me on his side or her side of the table. So we're looking at the same problem through the same eyes, and I can say, this is what I would do, this is what I need to win, and so I need to have this kind of price, but you probably aren't willing to sell it to me for that price, but this is what you should do. If you're going to list with the realtor, this is how you should do it, and watch out, don't do this, don't do that. In other words, you are farming, you are planting and cultivating seeds, and it's just a different mindset. It's an abundant mindset, whereas the hunter mindset is, I'm going to kill game, and then when the game is dead, it's dead.
Yeah,
there's no more life that comes from that deal. Don't kill deals like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. This next principle is something I've heard you tell me before, and heard you tell other people before, and I love it. It's say yes, then figure it out. Talk to us about saying yes, then figuring it out.
Well, a scarcity mindset says no, and says I don't know how. And because they look at themselves scarcely, and they go, I don't know how to do that. They never even ask the question, do I know anybody in my network that might know how to do that, where I could network with them? So scarcity mindset is no, I don't know how. The positive mindset is just say yes. For instance, that deal that I shared with, sometimes I can't remember which podcast we're talking about, this is deals of stories, but there was a 12-unit apartment building that the sellers were trying to sell. I couldn't afford it. I didn't have the down payment. I didn't have the credit. I didn't have the cash flow. I didn't have the collateral. I didn't have any of the things that they would need.
Yeah.
But I knew it was a good deal. So I said yes. Yes. Here's the $1,000 to tie it up. Now then I go find the resources. As Tony Robbins would teach, I need to be resourceful. If I don't have the resources, I need to be resourceful. That's creative. That's finding the resources, right? So say that principle again so everybody remembers it.
Principle 6 is say yes, then figure it out.
Now, this takes courage.
Yes, it does.
And I can look at my entire career I just say yes and then I figure it out.
And by the way, I would go so far as to say that's not just even in real estate investing. That
in
is in
everything.
life, right? If you get offered a chance to do something,
Yes.
say yes and then figure out how to do it, right? A new job, a new promotion, like,
Now, check with your intuition.
yeah, for sure. Make sure it's true to who you are.
If it's who you are, if it's what you should be doing, yeah. And then you say yes to it, even if it's frightening and you don't know how to do it. It's how is the weakest word.
Yeah.
The weakest question is how. How do I do this? The most important word is why do you want to do this?
Sure.
And then maybe the first question is, what do I really want? And what vehicle am I going to use to get me there? And why am I willing to invest the time to learn how to drive that vehicle? And then how am I going to drive that vehicle? It's the weakest question. How? This is where scarcity mindset people start. You probably know somebody like that, and they're always asking, well, how do we do that?
Yes.
And maybe a member of your family is like that, and it's hard to explain that you think differently. It's not, how do I do that? It's like going for it, saying yes, and then figuring it out. Once you've committed, then you force yourself to figure it out. You have a deadline now. For me, my deadline from that 12-unit apartment building was like 6 weeks. Okay. I had 6 weeks to raise enough money for the down payment for that building that I could not afford myself.
Yeah.
So that was a deadline. The closer you get to the deadline, the higher your creativity goes.
Right.
That's why you always need deadlines. We'll talk about that in another podcast.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so this is the seventh and final principle. So this one is intriguing to me because a lot of people, I think it's counterintuitive, but it's give your way to wealth, add value, and the difference between transactional versus transformational. That's a big principle.
Yeah. The world is transactional. That means you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I'll give you this down payment, you'll give me your real estate.
Yes.
I do this for you, you do that for me, tit for tat.
Right.
Yeah, it's transactional. We're doing a transaction. I'm going to invest some of my time or money. You're going to give me some product or service or information that I need. That's transactional. Transformational is very counterintuitive, very. And I'll talk about this over and over and over again because what I believe in principles, and therefore principles are going to pervade everything I do. Therefore, when I do a podcast, it's going to come out over and over and over again. So giving is so powerful. When you give counterintuitively, it means it doesn't seem like that's right, that when you actually risk giving to somebody first, before they give you anything. As a matter of fact, not even expecting them to give you anything.
Right.
But giving with no expectation of return. That's really counterintuitive. That's like that's like in another world.
Yeah.
Like people just don't live that way in this world. But when you do, you talk to really rich people, they'll tell you that almost the first thing out of their mouth. I'm just a giver. And I just like to give. I like to teach. I like to share. True story. One of my students brought an incredible real estate deal to somebody, a doctor actually. And he said, this is it. This is a huge profit on this deal, $1 million in profit. And here's the address. And the doctor went and bought it and cut him out.
Oh.
And guess how many deals he did with that doctor again?
Yeah, I bet none.
Never again.
Yeah.
Never again. Now, this student has a very, very large net worth, massively more than that doctor today, because he cut his own throat, because he was transactional and he was a taker. He wasn't a giver. He took.
Yeah.
The world takes from takers and it gives to givers. Just the bottom line. The world takes from takers and gives to givers. That's just the bottom line principle here. So, when I talked about harvesting, that's part of the process of harvesting, is creating value for somebody else, saying, by the way, this is what you could do, and this is a deal that you might want to do, and this is what I would do if I were you. In other words, you're helping, coaching, giving knowledge, information to everybody you talk to. You're just a giver. That's just what you do. And it seems counterintuitive, but when you do that, literally, the walls just fall and opportunities start flowing to you. I know we don't go too often into spiritual stuff, but frankly, the higher power knows where all the deals are right now, this very second. And you want to be a giver because you want to be on that side of the equation. You don't want to be on the taker side of the equation because that doesn't work. Yeah. So the bottom line is that with every looking you're doing, whenever you find somebody to talk to, you're not trying to take. You're not trying to negotiate the smallest, slowest price. You're trying to be on their side of the table first. Therefore, you're giving up your position. And it might seem, you won't find a whole lot of negotiating books about this, by the way.
Yeah.
They're transactional.
Right.
This is counterintuitive. That means it goes against common sense that you give first. And when you give the profits from the deals you do that way, and you give the first 10% of the money you earn from that to whatever favorite charity or church or cause or philanthropy, now you really activate the universe.
Yeah.
And now deals start flowing to you. And you might say, well, I'm sitting at a closing and I have a $100,000 check here from the profit that I earned by working really hard to find this deal. And you want me to immediately give away the first $10,000 to whatever church, cause, charity, whatever? I mean, that immediately reduces my bank account by $10,000. I can see it with my own rational eyes.
Right.
My bank account has less money in it now. But the truth is, behind the scenes, you have a whole host of invisible sources that bring you opportunities that would have never otherwise have occurred. Never would have found them. You never would have found them. So giving is not a wealth subtractor. It's a wealth multiplier.
Yeah.
And I've learned that the hard way. Going with burn the subtracting part. And it was a very expensive lesson. Don't learn that lesson the way I learned my lesson. That's why I teach it so adamantly and ardently.
I love it.
So these principles that we've talked about, I'm sure we can come up with. In fact, we'll come up with another 7, one of these future podcasts. But it's just the way you see the world. That's what a principle is. The way you see the world and the way you act as you look at the world, the way the world reacts to you. Yeah. And good luck, everybody.
Yeah. Hey, so just a quick recap of the 7 principles, right? You've been listening to Robert G. Allen drop some knowledge on us. Principle 1, finding gold. Principle 2, curiosity versus mastery. Principle 3, pretend you're rich. Principle 4, in dill digging, you need to go first wide, then deep.
Yes.
Principle 5 is farming, not hunting. 6 is say yes, then figure it out. And 7 is give your way to wealth. And remember the difference between transformational and transactional. Thank you so much, Robert, for dropping that information on us today. I know people around the world are just super excited about this. And thank you for helping us crack the code.
Let's create some wealth together.
Let's do it.